about you, hero? You have enough?
Okay, man. Now we're even, huh?
No,
we're even.
no mercy.
Hello.
Hello.
Cheerio, buddy.
Cheerio.
Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you too. So, my good man, what are we doing today?
I don't know.
Why am I here?
Why are you here? Did I invite you over?
I think so. You did invite me over, and usually when I come over, there's like a theme or something going on.
Interesting. Very interesting.
It's almost like we're doing another coffee episode. Ninja coffee.
Ninja coffee, you say? Yes. It seems there's a martial arts themed thing going on here.
Yep.
Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Ninja Coffee. And since it's Ninja Coffee, we have Ninja Mike in the house. Waka 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 waka. Yes, this is Mike. I am KH. And in today's episode, I have something very interesting for you. This is one of those videos I can only do with like a proper martial arts nerd like yourself and me. So we are going to talk about a versus video. We're going to do a versus video with Ralph Macchio versus William Zabka. No, wait. I mean Daniel LaRusso versus Johnny Lawrence.
Awesome.
Yes. So I want us to talk about who is the better martial artist, who would be the better fighter, because it doesn't have to be the same.
No.
Who would win in a fight? And I mean, back in the days when you had only Karate Kid, that was more easy to discuss. But now with Cobra Kai, throwing that into the mix, that changes things because they both evolve and they train with each other. They learn more throughout the series.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I think this is a very interesting topic for our Ninja Coffee.
It is definitely interesting. What I love the most about these two characters is that they're like they're representing two different styles.
Yin and Yang.
Yes, exactly. And I think they kind of play heavily into that during the show too, as well. And then they show it's not like all good and all bad. But if you really look at the Karate Kid movies, it's already in there in some way.
It's already established there with the Miyagi-Do style.
So it's very interesting. So the style of Johnny Lawrence is a style which is a Korean karate style called Tang Sudo. And Miyagi-Do is actually based on Goju Ryu, which is a really old-fashioned, like Okinawan karate style from Okinawa. And Okinawa is the birthplace of karate.
Yeah, just ask Jesse Enkamp.
Exactly.
Anytime somebody says Goju Ryu, I'm thinking of those berries, those really good berries. What is they're called? Goji berries.
Goji berries.
I'm like, is that like you train karate and then you eat the berries?
No, actually, Go and Ju. Go is like hard and Ju is soft. So it is kind of playing already into that little bit of yin-yang bit. So
I brought the right person for this video.
You definitely did.
Okay, that's very cool. So we have a softer style, Goju Ryu, versus a more harder style, Tang Sudo.
Probably, but Goju Ryu is that it incorporates both of those. Yeah. But Tang Sudo is more based on Shotokan karate, which is more of a Japanese style of karate. It is still from Okinawa and everything, but it was heavily influenced by the Japanese. but it is also influenced by different Korean martial arts, which makes it much more kick-heavy compared to maybe Shotokan karate. And they also focus a little bit more on the sport aspect. So they have maybe a little bit more of a focus on the sparring and stuff like that. And they have a much more, a competitive circuit. You can compete more in it. Goju Ryu is
more of art.
It's more of an art. It's more of a martial art, and very true to its root and all of that. And even though there is competition in it, it's not like I competed in Goju Ryu today. It's not so common as in Shotokan and perhaps Tang Soo Do.
So that's their styles, and we are talking about the characters mostly. We are talking about the characters within the universe of Cobra Kai and Karate Kid. Because if we were going to talk about who would win a fight between Ralph Macchio and William Zabka, that would be a different topic. And there, I would put my money on William Zabka.
Me too.
He actually knows martial arts.
Yeah, it's very obvious to us who train martial arts that when he moves, that there are a genuine martial arts training. It's not just something he learned like a little while ago. This is something he's been doing for a while.
Yeah, I think anyone's grandmother could beat up poor Ralph Macchio. Anyway, yeah. So, what do you think in the universe of Cobra Kai and Karate Kid? Who would win a fight? Because then we have to kind of take a look at when this fight would be as well. If we're talking about Karate Kid 1, for the most part, I mean, even at the end, if you had the same tournament once more, it's not a given that Daniel would have won. He gets his ass handed to him for most of that fight, and then he lands maybe an illegal kick, or maybe not. But like that one kick is the factor that changes everything in that fight.
Yeah.
Up until that point, he is losing that fight.
He is.
More or less.
More or less. And it makes sense in some ways in reality because he has the more training at that point. Johnny has already won a tournament.
He's trained for some years.
He's trained for some years more than Daniel. That is, but it is, again, it's a movie and everything, so it's a universe in itself. So if you have to look away from the cinematics of it all and storytelling and everything, it would be obvious that Johnny would be the better martial artist, even if he had, like Mr. Miyagi was a Japanese guy from Japan who trained him like they would, like on a very high level and all of that. I would still think that Johnny would have more experience.
He has more experience, and he has more sparring experience, more practical experience.
Yeah.
And also, he was more bigger and more muscular and more fit as well in that movie as well.
And they've done that intentionally when they cast it because the underdog element of it. Yeah. So even there, you're playing into the cinematic portion a little bit.
Because in a real world, where weight and strength and physical size matters, I would say a big good guy will beat up a small great fighter. Like if you're decent and you're a lot bigger, you're gonna normally win against somebody who's more technical and maybe better than you talent-wise if they're a lot smaller. That's why we have weight divisions.
Exactly. And it's also very difficult because fighting is very situation-based, so it's hard to say like, 100% this and 100% that.
No, this is just for fun.
If it was that easy, it would be obvious who wins in a UFC fight as well. You wouldn't have betting and all of that. That's kind of the exciting part of the fighting game in itself. And, the unknown element of it.
And in that movie already, they fight once on the beach where Daniel sucker punches LaRusso, Johnny, and Johnny defends himself and beats him up.
Yep.
And I think they have one more little fight on the football.
They have a short scuffle. Then you have that.
So if they were fighting outside of the ring and outside of karate rules, do you think that would change anything? Like, would that make Daniel be able to? Would that give Daniel an advantage, or do you think it wouldn't matter?
From what we see of the training, it's very much like block, punch.
Yeah.
It's
It doesn't
fairly
have throws.
basic.
Yeah, it doesn't have any proper self-defense.
Yeah, it's fairly basic. The martial arts that we see are being taught. But you know, in the world of make-believe, in a movie like that, he could have shown him a lot of other things too, right? And that is also something you could see in the movie. You know, when he did something outside the ordinary, he caught him with a kick, right? Yeah. This can happen in real life too. Maybe a fight settles into a rhythm, and then you throw something crazy, and it works. Yes,
that actually works.
Yeah.
So okay, that was Karate Kid 1. Now, by the end of Karate Kid 3, Daniel has learned a lot more.
Yeah.
He's been in Japan, and he's been in Okinawa and trained.
Yeah.
He, let's say, even in Karate Kid 3, he's even trained a little bit, even though they train him kind of wrong on purpose.
Yeah.
He's trained with the Cobra Kai.
Yeah.
So, how would you think a fight would be between Johnny Lawrence and Daniel LaRusso if we're putting it around the time?
Around that time, I would give it to Daniel, because I think at that point, Johnny is broken, you know.
Johnny is very broken, and he loses his self-esteem and his faith in himself. He loses faith in himself after that fight. Yeah. And Daniel just keeps evolving and growing, and he's learned a lot more. So I also would believe that again, within this context universe I also think Daniel would probably win a fight between them if we're talking Karate Kid 3.
Yeah, it just makes sense, you know, because at that point he's off karate.
He's gained some more experience with fighting as well.
Yeah, exactly. So he's not like...
And he's learned more moves.
Not so simplistic. That the katas he's learning are more advanced.
A man can't walk. A man can't fight.
That is cool. Yeah. That is a cool scene. That is something I really love with the whole series, is how amazingly everything looks, you know, like there's many iconic scenes, you know.
Many iconic scenes, many very memorable characters like Terry Silver and John Kreese. Yeah. And Terry Silver in Karate Kid 3, his karate is awesome.
Yeah. He looks more to be like a kickboxer, I would say, than rather like just karate. It's much more of a freestyle kind of thing.
Absolutely. Okay, so now this becomes a lot more tricky. So if we're approaching season 1 Cobra Kai, let's say halfway through, or even by the start. By the start of the season, Johnny's totally out of shape.
Yeah, completely.
He's a drunk, he hasn't been training, but then again, on the other end of that, Daniel hasn't been training much either. He's like this lazy salesman who's like kind of disappointed in himself because he knows he's not training and he would rather be doing martial arts, and he's kind of moved away from that. That is like a part of his life that he's
he's put it a little bit on
the
hold.
Shelf.
On the shelf. Like, so, but it's normal when you get like a job and all of that. So that's all fairly realistic.
So by the beginning, I don't know who I would put my money on, because they're both pretty out of it.
If we are to follow the rules of the cinematic universe, make believe, it would be who has the better reason to fight, who has because it's like...
That would be Johnny.
Yeah, probably, because they are also focusing a lot on him in the
first season. And he has something to prove. He wants to prove that was a lucky punch.
Yes, and he was also the underdog. So
I think they have the fight in the apartment. Is that at the end of season 1 or is that in season 2?
I'm not able to recall.
I think they have a tiny fight.
They trade some blows.
They trade some blows, and in my memory, Johnny looks better in that fight, and he's kind of pushing the fight, and Daniel is like backing away. And But I don't know. But yeah, I think by season 1, maybe I would also think Johnny would be the better of them.
Yeah, but that is following the
lore.
The lore and everything. Very hard to say.
But it's hard to say because we don't know how out of shape they both are.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a valid point. But it's like he's drinking every day. Daniel is living somewhat healthy.
That is true. That has a lot to say.
So that is also something that plays into it. But mostly since it is in the world of make-believe, I would think it doesn't so much matter the physicality, rather the reasoning, right?
Yeah.
Johnny would be the heavy underdog. You put him up against Daniel, who seems like the bad guy in that one, which is one of the things, they swing around with the yin and the yang there, which is very cool, by the way.
And by the end of season 1, Johnny is looking pretty good.
Yeah.
And okay, throughout the seasons, we don't need to go season for season, but let's go by the end when they've both trained with each other. That means Daniel knows even more Cobra Kai style, and Johnny Lawrence has learned Miyagi-Do,
which is also very cool when they start learning from each other. Yeah.
And you have the Eagle Fang, his own style.
Yeah, he kind of modified the Cobra Kai bit and removed the worst mind control elements that's really negative and just
added
focus
some rock and roll into it.
Yeah, exactly. Which is very, very cool. Yeah. But who would win at the end?
They do have a fight where they knock each other out.
Yeah, so they're playing it very much like they're equals,
even.
Right?
They are very even. They're pretty even in the show.
And I like that they're playing their opposite philosophies against each other, right? And that is what drives the fight. And then in the end, it's like both of them, they're equals, meaning their philosophy is also equal, right? Which is...
The light can't exist without the
darkness, and darkness cannot exist without the light.
It's very cool.
It is so extremely, extremely cool to play into that bit. I really love them for doing that. So at the end of it, if we're going to be realistically, again...
If we're doing it realistically, I'm leaning more towards Johnny Lawrence.
Yeah, same here.
If we're only doing it based on the knowledge and the experience they have in the universe, it's hard to say. Because now it's not just their one style against each other. But then again, Daniel learns a couple of new things throughout Cobra Kai as well.
When the pressure points.
With training with Chosen.
But Johnny kind of neutralizes that in the fight, which is also a very cool element. Any other cheating bullshit?
That's true. And we have the fight where they fight against these bad guys in this old workshop, the car workshop place.
Yeah,
they're looking good, both of them, and they're even finding a rhythm and together, and they fight very synchronized. And they do that again at some other point where they're teaming up and fighting.
But Johnny becomes very unhinged in that fight. And
he does. He loses control.
Yes, and that's where the cinematic things plays in. If you step out of line, there needs to be a good guy who puts him back. And then is where Daniel kind of overpowers him and tells him to calm the fuck down. Yeah. So.
And then we have their fight against John Kreese.
Yeah.
And that's also you can debate that because
there's many ways of looking at that.
There's many ways of looking at that. Daniel gets beaten up by John Kreese faster and worse than Johnny, but
he would probably hold back on Johnny because
is he holding back because he actually cares about Johnny?
Yeah.
Or maybe again that one style against John Kreese doesn't work as well as it works against Johnny.
But that doesn't make sense when Miyagi was kicking his ass up and down the dojo. So it doesn't quite make sense.
That is a difficult one. Why? That means that he must have held back then. Probably against Johnny.
There's so many things.
Or maybe Johnny knows John Kreese better as well, so he knows how to fight him better than Daniel.
Maybe Kreese has been running that fight in his head. And he's I know what he's going to do because I remember what the old man did to me. So he's going to try to do the same thing. And this is the way we counter to it.
And Daniel has no experience fighting Kreese, while Johnny has sparred with him and trained with him. So there's a lot of factors.
There's many factors. Also, the age of Kreese is he's way older than any of them. Moves
but
really well.
He beats them up still, both of them, more or less. But yeah, all in all, how would you have this? So we have one fight in the beginning, one fight at the end of the Karate Kid trilogy. We can have one fight early in the Cobra Kai and one fight towards the end of Cobra Kai. So the first one, we more or less agree that Johnny would probably win. The second one, we also agree that by the end of Karate Kid 3, Johnny would probably lose.
Yeah.
And early, that's very tough. That's almost 50-50.
Yeah, it's 50-50.
Based on the lifestyle. And I think it's been more years since Johnny trained than Daniel. I think I would, early Cobra Kai, I think I would give that to Daniel.
Most likely.
Healthier lifestyle, and yes, he hasn't trained recently, but Johnny hasn't trained since Karate Kid 1.
Yeah.
So that's a longer pause.
That is a longer pause.
But by the end of Cobra Kai, I would think Johnny, and both his now more versatile style and his way of fighting, his spirit and his aggression, would probably make it more difficult for Daniel. That is just my way of looking at it. There's no right or wrong. I don't have the answers. This is just my theory.
Yeah.
What about you?
No, I agree with your assessment. there. Very hard to tell at that point.
But no matter what, they're pretty equal.
Yeah, and that's what they're also putting up in the show, and I kind of like that.
Yeah.
That you have two chiefs, kind of.
Absolutely.
And that you can unify these. You don't have to go all the way this way. You don't have to go all the way.
It's a very grey.
Yeah, it's a very grey area, and you can kind of slither in between. Yeah. So yeah.
So I would give a slight margin and a very marginalized win for Johnny.
Yeah.
That's my conclusion.
Yeah. Because he is still, even at this point, at the end of the show, he's still a little bit of the underdog, He doesn't have a wife. Well, he kind of has, but he doesn't have a successful business. He hasn't done so well for himself. He's more
reason to fight.
Yeah, he does.
And also, this might also color my perspective. In every fight scene, William Zabka looks so much better than Ralph Macchio.
It's obvious that
that colors my way of looking at it. Maybe. So, like, when one person looks really good in every scene and the other looks like... I mean, he gets better, but he still, as I said, looks like anyone's grandmother would be able to beat Daniel LaRusso.
With the way he's fighting, there's no shoulder, and it's interesting. It's interesting, and I think they did a good choice at having William doing most of the fight scenes. Because of his martial arts background, it just looks better on the camera. But I will say the cinematic, the way they built up to the final fight with Daniel, is like you almost don't care that the moves don't look
you're very
perfect.
Invested in the story.
You're very invested, but that shows how great of a storyteller the people of the show, and how good of the actors actually are.
And the show just gets better and better. The last season is amazing. And we could do similar episodes on other characters. If you want us to do other videos on the characters in Cobra Kai, let us know in the comments. We could do... Who else could we do?
Miguel and Hawk.
Yeah. The guy in Karate Kid 3. Michael Barnes versus Chosen could be an interesting one. Terry Silver versus John Kreese.
That would be interesting.
And that also, you have to go through the timeline of when they are fighting. Yeah, so if you guys want any similar videos, let us know in the comments. And yeah, I think that's it. That's a wrap.
See you until next time.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in. Take care, guys. And remember, strike first, strike hard. You can show a little bit mercy. If you want to.
If you want to.
Cheers, dude.
Cheers.
Hey guys, welcome back. Ninja Mike in the house. Waka, 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 waka. And we're doing a Ninja Coffee episode.